Good evening, denizens of Sanctuary, fellow Nephilim. A season has come and gone, and it took a little bit longer than we thought. It was actually the length of perhaps 2 normal seasons. But hey, things are different in Sanctuary, and that's where we're fighting all these battles. Now, today, the first day, maybe the second day, depends on where your time is, what your time zone's like. We have entered a new era, a brave new era, an era where history will be rewritten because the leaderboards are no longer. They are blank, ready to be filled with your new deeds, your new triumphs, and perhaps blotched with your fatal mishaps and your deaths that occur along the way. Whatever happens to you, don't fret, because a new season is not that far away. So even if you lose all your characters in the meantime, hey, you just re-roll on the season, no big deal. But back to the story. Your palms are sweaty, your knees are weak, and your arms a little bit heavy. Make sure that you cook up plenty of mom's spaghetti on February 13th. You will need it, the sustenance, to take you through Season 2 and an early beginning. Fresh start. Let's get it. A brave new era. That's all I got off the top there.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than it looks when you come in unprepared.
It is.
Believe me, I have a lot of experience doing that.
I would have never guessed that though, just based on the level of organization and preparedness that you've delivered in each and every one of your intros in the past.
Yes, you so kind.
Shots fired.
As we'll get into the feedback, people love my openings apparently.
They do, and I don't understand why. I want feedback on that feedback.
We can ask the community for feedback on the feedback.
That's right. Did you at least catch the reference there at the end?
I did not.
You're not an Eminem fan? You need to go back into the catalog. Mom's Spaghetti, man.
No.
Nothing. Wow.
Oh,
For shame.
And Eminem is actually one of the people that I do listen to, so yeah.
See, you're usually the one chastising me for missing the pop culture references and things.
True. But come on, Chasing the Dragon.
I know.
Yeah.
I've learned, though. I've improved. I've leveled up.
This is true. This is very true.
So speaking of leveling up and speaking of Brave New Eras, episode 38, we're here, Westmarch Workshop. Mr. Nineball, how was your week in gaming?
My week has not been too bad. Not too bad. Since last episode, I tried my darndest to try and get some of the season-only achievements for the end of Season 1, and it was a lot more of a grind than I was expecting. First, I was like, I'll do like each act at a time and like kill the bosses, so that way I can just like get them all done in like one swath, and I just keep knocking it out, and it'll be fine. And then it's like, oh, well, this is taking a really long time. I'll just drop it down to Torment 1. Oh, this is really still taking a very long time. So I managed to get Act 4 done, in addition to Act 1, as far as the bounties go. And that ended up being about it. It was far more time investment than I realized.
I hate to say I told you so, but...
You told me so.
I told you so. Yeah, man. No, it is truly a grind. I wonder, too, if those, A, will return in the next season, but also, B, if they will be lowered. I feel like I didn't see anyone else really complaining about them, and I suppose it's kind of the thing where if you pace it out over the course of a season, like if it were your goal going into it to get all those, then you probably would have done a better job just like, hey, I'll do 10 here, 10 there, so it doesn't really feel like quite a slog, but some of the numbers did seem kind of high. Like, I think a Skatu was like 100 kills or something.
Yeah, Skatu was ridiculously high, and for I think like Escatu, I'm trying to remember because he's not always there. I remember playing some of the Act 4 adventure modes and going to his area, and he didn't spawn. I don't know if it was bugged, but it's like I would get one shadow demon to spawn, and that was it.
And that was weird. So maybe that was one where obviously you would play the story mode, because it is pretty quick. It's the beginning of Act 4 right there, but that also seems kind of peculiar. Maybe an oversight.
Yeah, it has to be an oversight because he should be able to spawn because he's part of the one of the new conquests coming up in
Oh,
season 2.
you know what? You're
So,
right. So hopefully they did fix that because that might be broken.
mm-hmm.
I do remember that they made a pass on it on the PTR though, because I was talking to Nevelissus at one point, and she was saying they wanted a bit of focused feedback on that particular conquest, and I never really got around to gearing for it or doing it. But I do believe that they had found that something about it was broken, perhaps even that the spawn thing. But
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that pass that they made was getting it so all those spawn.
Yeah, yeah. But
But that's a bit of
yeah,
spoilers there.
a bit of spoilers. You got the inside look into what's coming up in the
That's right.
show. Yeah, that was probably one of the bigger things. Other than that, I finally managed to hit level 30 in Heroes of the Storm to unlock hero mode to go through and queue up for that for I guess it's the ranked league.
Very
And just
nice.
yeah, I'm just having some fun, continuing to rep Diablo on the Heroes Power Hour. You will find me every week playing a Diablo hero, so even though it's a different game, my heart is still here.
You're just spreading the love like some sort of creep tumor.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
look at
and
that
I get that reference.
cross. See, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Some
Oh
cross
yeah.
game love for you.
But how about you? How's your past week been?
I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to, unfortunately. We got another snow day on Monday, but I was actually away from the house because I left here on Sunday afternoon for the Super Bowl to go to a friend's house for that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
went to go and visit the lady that night, and then the snow came and I got stuck. And I was part of me, the time that I was there, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a lot of wasted Diablo time right here. But of course, I didn't say that. I never say
Yeah,
that.
and of course, you going over to her house right before the snowstorm wasn't planned whatsoever. You weren't going and looking at the weather map and being like,
It was not planned at all. I'm sure you'll see my head motions there for
uh-huh.
people listening. I was nodding yes. So yeah, I didn't get to play on that Monday and take advantage of kind of the last hours of the season ticking down. But I did do a ton of playing actually on Friday and most of Saturday, and I just couldn't get that Ancient Blade of Prophecy, man. And it was going to be the difference maker in terms of doing anything beyond what I had done on the leaderboards, at least doing it consistently, because I managed to generate a Greater Rift 43 key right before I left for the Super Bowl, actually, and I ran that Rift, and I got what was the Guardian? I got I can't recall, but it was one of the ones that's not great for melee. It might have even been Gom, Fat Gom, or whatever. Actually, that's exactly who it was. And I kited him through like the entire level. And I was just thinking the whole because I think I spawned him with maybe 7 minutes left in that rift. So if it were any other Guardian, I think I would have gotten that down in plenty of time. But it just I feel like the ancient items, like what I was really realizing, especially for the ancient weapons, they just really help to solidify a clear. So even if you're on the precipice, you're on the edge of clearing like a 43 or a 44, if you get that ancient weapon and it's going to be a huge improvement to what you're currently geared with, I think it'll easily push you over that kind of, oh, I'm on the edge. Like if I get the right circumstances, if I get the right monsters, right guardians, etc., it kind
Mm-hmm.
of nullifies some of that RNG that might prevent you from progressing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I remember seeing. I guess getting a little bit off topic from our weekend gaming, but I've been seeing some feedback from people that's one of the Rift bosses is still one of the last few things that they kind of need to shore up the RNG on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still makes such a huge determining factor that you can go through. You've got the perfect Rift, and then you've got the wrong boss, or you have like a bad Rift, and then you get the um dang it, what was the rock golem that spawns copies of himself?
Oh, Stone Singer.
Yeah, Stone Singer.
Beautiful Rift Guardian.
Yeah, you could have a bad rift, but get him and make up all of your time because he
Mm-hmm.
has, almost half the health of all the other rift bosses.
It's very true. And yeah, it's weird that there are those inconsistencies because if you recall too, I think it was the Legendary Workshop postmortem, where John Yang and I forget who the other dev was. Julian Love was also
Hmm.
there too, and they were talking. I think they openly addressed that there were some disparities that they noted with Rift Guardians, and they were hoping to tackle those and kind of make them a bit more equal across the board. And I know that in the PTR and then subsequently in 2.1.2, they kind of nerfed some of them. Like Rhyme obviously isn't as
Oh
dangerous
yeah.
as it used to be.
Hmm.
I forget there were a couple of maybe two others that got modified. Blood Maw and the other poison one. But
It pretty much was like any of the ones that had the massive, almost unavoidable AOE. Yeah, that
exactly.
you're always going to get a couple ticks of it off. So just reducing the damage, and obviously with Rhyme, he's just less likely to put it into the melee range to allow you to DPS him without having to stand in one of the runes.
Right, and stacking them up. I think like less of them stack and they stay around for less time too. So it was like all really
Hmm.
good changes. But yeah, if you can get like the difference between Stone Singer or even Orlash, who like isn't as dangerous, obviously like him
Hmm.
nullifying your health or your health regen can kind of hurt you if you're pretty dependent on that for returns. But at the
Hmm.
same time, just the fact that he disappears every like I don't know what it is, 45
Yeah.
seconds or something, like that's lost
Hmm.
DPS time. And so you could be well within the range of killing him, but you know, because he disappears and comes back, disappears, comes back, like you're just losing. It's not even part of the mechanics of the fight really. It's just a
Hmm.
punishment for getting that Rift Guardian.
Yep. Yep, it is, and yeah, it's just you can easily have that because with the higher rift difficulties, and it's going to take you a couple minutes anyways. It's just every 40 seconds that you spend on him is going to be an extra 10 seconds as he goes and does the little teleporting thing and spawning the little clones of himself.
It's definitely very frustrating.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that's hopefully something that we will see. I doubt it'll get fixed or changed before season 2, so maybe it'll be a thing that we hope to see in patch 2.2 with season 3. I'm hoping they
Hmm.
coincide. Um, but yeah, in terms of the rest of the weekend game, honestly, there wasn't even all that much left. I did a little bit of the stash Tetris after the season ended. That was a
Hmm.
lot of fun because I just went through and nuked pretty much everything. Like I didn't really have a strat going in. I was just like, I'll look at what was in the seasonal stash and everything that was in the non-seasonal. I was like, I was saving like the world's worst items, Nightball. Like
Yeah.
I swear I was like a noob at the game like five
Uh-huh.
months ago. I was like, why do I have this rare ring that's awful? Why do
I I feel you on that so much. That's what I was doing before the show, before we did the pre-show. Is I just went in and I didn't touch my non-seasonal stuff. I was going and knocking out some of my seasonal stuff like you were, but then I was like, well, I don't know what I have in my other stash. I'll just wait till tomorrow and sort it all out at once.
Mhm.
Yeah, bad decision because I actually went in there and I've got like level 36 rares and things, and it's just like, why am I holding on to this? It's like at some point I must have thought, oh, I need to keep it for leveling gear, but it's just like, no, no.
So bad,
it's
right?
it's like I had a helmet that just was vitality in a socket at level 26, and it's just like, what was I thinking? Why do I want this?
Right? Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, yeah. It's so funny to pick back up there, especially because too, I think it's kind of a hallmark of where gear was at, just how much harder it was to come by because
Hmm.
you're thinking it's hardcore, so we're stashing away things that we want as backups in case we die. But our backups were so bad, and then even looking at the
Hmm.
gear that my characters were wearing, I was like, wow, like how did I even do like a Rift 19 clear on with this crap? Like, and what is this spec? Like, I don't even
Yeah.
understand. Like, what was I trying to accomplish? So it was kind of fun to just revisit the old times and subsequently delete it all. I actually did get rid of all of my softcore characters too. That was a big thing that I was debating on whether I would do or not.
I think I probably need to do that next.
Yeah.
Right, to go through and just to clear out some space, coming up for season 2 here in 2 weeks. But one of the other things that I did get to relive is some of the legacy items that I had.
Oh,
You know,
yes, yes.
it's yeah, didn't really have anything good. I think I had a very like a badly rolled homunculus. It's not good enough, and I don't have any of the other items in order to make the zero cooldown dog build.
Right.
For the witch doctors. But some of the other ones that I came across is I have like the perfect leveling daggers for when you first start off the game. They have
Oh, yeah, yeah.
they have no level requirement or 12 DPS and have plus 4 XP per kill. And it's like I don't do the power leveling thing. I always like starting the new characters off myself, but it's just perfect for any of the classes except for the demon hunter. Just throw those bad boys on, and you are destroying everything.
Right. and hopefully they lead you into your that first level where you can get a socket in your gear, and then you throw or a socket in your weapon, and you throw that ruby in there, and just keep on killing on.
Yep.
But of course, that's going to be all for naught once season 2 ends, because then you'll just have your
Yeah.
gem of V's to destroy
We,
everything.
we get that most beautiful of scarabs.
Mm-hmm. It's very
Hmm.
exciting stuff. But yeah, that's it's just really funny to look back and see how far we have come
Yeah.
in weeks and weeks and months and episodes as well. So with that, would you want to jump into some of our news items that we have highlighted?
Yeah, let's go through and do it. Do you mind if I start off?
Please go ahead.
Okay, I think not terribly Diablo related, but something big for us here as part of the Westmarch Workshop as part of the Blizz Pro family. And uh, one of the promotions that JR, one of the co-creators for the website, is trying to do is he wants to get rid of ads on the website. And this is something pretty much all of us in the staff are definitely behind. And towards that goal, we started the Patreon account. So that way, people, fans, listeners can go and donate monthly to help us achieve that goal of being able to pull ourselves off the ad networks. This isn't to, obviously it'd be great if it ever got to the point to pay writers or anything like that, but we're all volunteers. We knew what we were getting into before we started, and this really is to just be able to break ties and not have to worry about ads. Is, even though we're going and using Google AdSense, you still sometimes have the occasional, exploits, and you see it all over the news about how AdSense got hacked or some bad thing went in. Obviously, we go in and correct it. We've not really had too many problems on our own site, but it's just that's something that we want to do to alleviate one of those burdens, and it really is just going to go towards hosting fees and things of that nature as far as keeping upkeep on the server and such.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you were talking, I went through and put the patreon.com/blizzpro page up on the screen so people could see it. And I just said the URL for those who are listening in case you want to go and check it out.
Hmm.
Originally, JR didn't even want to do rewards for it. He just kind of wanted it to be something that people did out of the kindness of their heart,
Hmm.
without feeling the need like, oh, I'm going to be losing content or gated, or I won't be able to participate in things. But one of the fun things that he decided on adding as a possible reward tier was if you pledge $5 or more, then we're going to be doing this Blizz Pro gaming night, where basically we just pick a game. It doesn't even have to be Blizzard related, I don't think.
Hmm.
And we'll just invite people who have hit that level to come and just play games with us. It might be like a Hearthstone tournament, could be something from the StarCraft arcade. And just a good
Hmm.
way to kind of build the community, give back to the community for giving to us and stuff like that. So,
And just to give you an idea, there was one point when we went and we did a what was it, the post-apocalyptic Sesame Street RPG.
that's right.
Yeah, we did that. That's one of the things that kind of got thrown out there as an idea. Is a lot of us are tabletop nerds, and we'd love to do a D&D game, and that's just one of the things that if you donate, with at least $5 a month, we'd invite you to come through and do that with us.
Okay.
So it definitely does not have to be Blizzard related. Just anything that we as a collective find fun or interesting.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you guys are into that, we definitely appreciate the support. Hey, and if not, we're still going to deliver you great content, great podcasts, etc. So
Hmm.
stick with Blizz Pro.
Yeah, and JR is going through and mentioning in chat that this month will more than likely be like will be Hearthstone, some sort of either little tournament style, match, or just because that's something that we've also done in the past. We've had like little like draft tournaments, and we've also done just like constructed tournaments.
And you know
And
who won that first tournament there, Nine Ball?
yeah, cheater.
Oh,
Um,
cheat.
uh-huh.
What? Who actually didn't I come up against someone that we both know well and beat his Warlock deck? Was that you? Oh, I love
Moving
you,
on.
buddy. I love you so much. All right. Well,
Uh,
is that all we needed to say on the Patreon front?
well, it is now. Jeez. Uh,
Salt in the
but no,
wound.
ever so slightly. But yeah, it's definitely something that something that's kind of it's important to us, as a team, to go through and just something that we all stand behind and that we'd like to see.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, do the right thing and support or don't support. Let's see. There were hot fixes, two or three or four of them from yesterday.
Hmm.
And those hot fixes were mostly fixes to some snapshotting, some leftover things where you could actually, get your damage up to a certain point and then stick a dot on stuff, and then that dot would continue to tick at that snapshotted damage, even though you
Hmm.
may not have been at that damage as the dot continued to tick. So I'll go ahead and read Nevilistus's post right here. For items, they fixed an issue where the damage over time effect of Pain Enhancer would permanently snapshot damage buffs, and they also fixed an issue, the same issue, with the Gem of Efficacious Toxin. For the Wizard in particular, they fixed an issue where the damage over time effect of Firebird's Finery would permanently snapshot the damage buff, and they also resolved some performance issues related to the Blazing Hydra and Mammoth Hydra runes. So
Hmm.
some smoother gameplay for the Wizards, but also some fixes to a little bit of cheese that you could possibly do with those DOTs.
Yeah, this is pretty much just stamping out a few of the last outliers out there for abilities that still snapshot stats. There aren't that many, and the I want to say like the Pain Enhancer and the Toxin Gem, you could get some decent damage out of them by going through and snapshotting, but it's not really enough to like make or break. But it is nice that they're at least making everything consistent
Mm-hmm.
and that nothing snapshots anymore.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
the is the Firebird Finery, that one could really swing things for its snapshotting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because when you think about, obviously, it's the best set for the Wizards who are attacking the leaderboards. And then if
Hmm.
it has any slight advantage, if we're truly trying to get to parity between all the classes, leaving something like that unchecked could eventually snowball itself into just unbridled power. All the way to the top.
It's What's the scouter say about his power level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? Something we
Classic,
never get old.
right?
Hmm.
I think that's it on those hot fixes there if we wanted to move on to our next news item.
Yeah. Which one should we go into next?
Maybe this is the time to tackle Jh's missive.
Let's get to it.
All right, big stuff here. So our buddy, our friend, your friend as well, the Wizard MVP, Jh went into the forums. I believe it was yesterday, and kind of threw down a big post, mostly just talking about his experiences with season one, and some of the things that he kind of took from it, and also Era One as well, because he's, I believe, mostly a non-seasonal player. But kind of just
Hmm.
the things he took from it, the state of the game, stuff that he believes should be fixed, needs to be fixed, could be fixed, but hasn't been fixed. And just kind of the feeling that it has given him as a person who stylizes himself as a hardcore lowercase h player, someone who dedicates hours and hours and hours every single day to the game, and kind of how he feels like it's hurting himself more than helping himself. And if you have anything else to add to that intro, we can kind of dive into some of the stickier points here.
Yeah. No. I guess it would be better to just go on with the post in order to kind of expand on what he means by that.
Okay.
Hmm.
So one of the very first things that he talks about is the power creep issue. And with that, it's basically the fact that set items are pretty pigeonholey. They make it
Hmm.
so that you have to pick certain skills that are based on what those sets amplify and give their bonuses to.
Hmm.
And they really are the end game for every class. Like every class is striving towards a certain set right now, and perhaps certain sets, plural, going forward into the future. But I mean, we've seen feedback from others in the community besides Jake as well that were saying, it feels kind of crappy to have all these non-set legendaries that kind of just act as buffers to the sets that exist if you're using like a Ring of Royal Grandeur or something. But you
Hmm.
can't actually make like a truly viable competitive build just based solely on a bunch of random legendaries that you throw together.
I think one of the closest ones to that, even though it's still centered around a set, is Sun Wukong monks.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got the set, but then you have so many other things that are going through and propping it up from there. You've got the Gungdo gear bracers. You have the Grand Torch, as your weapon. You have the Kirin's gaze. I think it's the I know it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
The helm.
the helm that allows you to cast it at range. There's just you've got all these different things that go through and buff it up. But of course, the topper is of course just the damage bonus that you get from the set itself.
Right.
I think that would be a good example of something that you could do to prop that up. The main point, of course, going back to is most classes are like you have one viable set, and that's the one build that you get to play. There's variations within it, but it's still the same overall thing. If you're like Demon Hunters, once you hit Marauder 6, you're going through and you're blasting cluster arrow with a whole bunch of sentries.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're playing a fire build or a cold build or a physical build, you're still more or less the same type of gameplay. And it's just there's nothing else that can compete with that until they fix Natalia's or they come out with the multi-shot set. And
Right.
and even then,
You're
you'll
still
be using
in a set.
yeah, you'll be Reign of Vengeance or multi-shot, and that's what you'll be built around. And it's these things, and the what he starts off with about pigeonholing players is just the level of difference between using a set and not using a set is huge. Now, it's kind of what the game is designed at this point, and the developers have talked about this greatly, that the most powerful affixes, the most powerful abilities that items give, they feel are best suited as a set bonus. So the cost is not being able to use all these other cool legendaries in the specific slots that the set takes up. But then the payoff is you get this massive bonus. Now, it would obviously be much better if you had, a combination of legendaries that you could equip to give yourself something akin to a set bonus without being a set bonus, but different things that you could swap back and forth to, make, Wave of Light compete with Sun Wukong or something along those lines.
Right. I think another point that's really interesting that you made previously, and tying into what you were just saying, is the fact that the Sun Wukong set, you only need the 4 pieces. And so that's kind of what opens up the rest of your gear slots to also either help to prop that up, which obviously most players tend to go in that direction, or to possibly add in different things that you might want to utilize, possibly a little off spec or off the beaten cookie cutter build. But I guess that's maybe one of the big points here is that it's 6-piece sets. It's the fact that you have to commit, like you're saying, those slots, and you're going to gain that massive power from sets, but at the same time you're giving up a lot of those slots, and therefore you can't really be all that different. So every Veer Archon wizard looks the same. Every Firebird wizard kind of looks the same. And one of the points that Jake was harping on is that, yeah, it plays into that whole fantasy role of like, okay, like I am embodying this sort of build, like I wear the gear for it, I look like it, etc. But again, it's kind of exciting in a class specific vacuum, but when he compares it to every class across the board, well, it just looks like Demon Hunters got way better, and everyone else is left in the dust. And so what does that mean? How do we break it? And is it going to get better from adding more sets? Maybe because you have more options for each class, but at the same time, it's still sets for sets.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of what it comes down to. And one of the things that you mentioned with the power gap with the Demon Hunters that he kind of attacks there at the end isn't so much to do about power creep, but goes into just the level of difference between the classes. Because you got Sun Wukong's got redesigned and Marauders got redesigned, and now they are like, Demon Hunters were already doing well. Monks needed help, and both those 2 sets got redesigned, and they're doing even better. Monks are up there competing with the best of them. Demon Hunters are doing better than what they were before, and then you have Witch Doctors, which didn't get any changes, and they're still, just kind of sitting back there struggling.
Right. And that's actually, to jump forward into Jage's post here too, that's another thing he brought up was this whole ZDPS support Witch Doctor role, and the fact that it puts the Witch Doctor in a very peculiar spot because, like you just said, their solo level of achievement is very low compared to everyone else. Like they are totally, absolutely struggling in the back of the pack. But when you put them in group setting, they are far and above probably the most important part of these groups,
Hmm.
because you're going to need that constant fear and the lockdown in order to get up into those really high rifts where the monsters are just doing obscene damage. But if they're never attacking, they're never moving, then that's
Hmm.
perfect, because then you just sit there and DPS them down while you have no threat to your own health. And so this is just one of the other issues that he highlights and says, well, where does this fall in the line of things that need to be addressed? Is it such a flagrant issue where every group that wants to climb to the top of the leaderboards needs to have this support witch doctor? Does it
Hmm.
again actually kind of benefit the witch doctor because it gives them something to do rather than, I
Yeah.
mean, where do we go with this?
Yeah, it really is. It's like when you get pigeonholed and it's like, oh, you're a great support class. Here you go. And that ZDPS build, it's something that affects JH as being a non-seasonal player because it involves a lot of legacy gear
Mm-hmm.
that you don't really see too much in seasons. But then again, is that really a good thing? Because then, that all that means is like, okay, so they see less play. It's like even on seasons you can still do the permanent lockdown, but the big one that they're doing now is like using the homunculus and such, so that way you have no cooldown on zombie dogs and can constantly just summon and sacrifice them and have a ton of health globes,
Right.
so that way everyone can equip Reaper's Wraps or Bloody Vengeance or what have you, and have infinite resources the entire time. And the only thing is stopping you at the higher rifts is just how quickly you can kill the enemies, how obscene is your damage, because you never have to worry about anything ever hitting you back.
Exactly. And I think that's when it gets to the point of game breaking, right? Like when you
Hmm.
introduce a mechanic that allows you to essentially say, I don't have to worry about resource management because I have unlimited. It's like turning on, when you play Age of Empires and you type in like whatever and you have
Hmm.
infinite resources. You can build all the wonders you want, you can build all the castles you want.
Hmm.
At that point, the game's not all that fun because you don't have to worry about that micromanagement level, that instance of, oh crap, if I spend this here, like then I can't do this for this amount of seconds, and am I being the most efficient? It takes away a core part of the game, and to me, I think that's something that should be addressed, even if it means they lower the proc rate of the globes coming out. Or I mean, it sucks because you don't want it to nerf what its intended use is supposed to be. So when a witch doctor is on its own, perhaps sacrificing dogs and hoping to get that health to possibly heal themselves out of a really tough spot, you don't want them to be hurt there, but at the same time, you don't want it to be so
Hmm.
flagrantly abused.
Yeah. Well, even for like a witch doctor that might be, using it on their own for whatever reason, it'd be more used for increasing their damage. Thanks to dang it, now I forget the name of the passive, but they have the passive that gives them the intelligence buff,
Oh, I
whenever
know.
they pick up a health club.
I know what you're talking about. Maybe gruesome feast, but
Yeah, gruesome feast, that's it. You're
okay,
absolutely right.
cool. No, that's true too. I mean, yeah, these are definitely like, I love the fact that most of the things he brought up here are things you can kind of be on both sides of, and they're basically just questions that make you go, what should we do? Because it's not clear cut answers, but they're definitely things that need some sort of change. It's just, what are the changes and how fast and how soon. Did
Hmm.
did you want to hit maybe the difficulty scaling part?
Yeah, this also ties in, with the difficulty scaling. Is just that um, you know, one of the things like within the game is just that as the players get stronger, and it kind of like ties in with all these points, is just like when the players get stronger, you kind of reach like a difficulty ceiling. You eventually get to a point where it is too hard. Players can't progress any further. It's just that the limitation of the gear, and no matter how skillful they are in playing, you just can't get any further. And the only way that you can get better is to add in new items to increase the power, and then that will then raise the difficulty ceiling by a smaller amount. And then there's nothing that the player can do in order to get past that difficulty ceiling, without Blizzard just introducing new items or rebalancing something. And so it just really comes down to, it's nothing but a gear check. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like what it comes down to with the greater rifts. Is just you get to a point where you either don't have the survivability, or when you're doing it like the ZDPS builds with a permanent lockdown, you just don't have the damage. That even though you don't even have to worry about the mobs attacking you back, they you just don't have enough damage from the rest of the team to kill the mobs fast enough to get through it.
Right. And so it kind of brings to question, what determines difficulty and how
Mm-hmm.
can you make that equation of difficulty a little bit more enticing? So something that could possibly be thrown in there and some ideas that he throws around is, what if you change visibility? Make it so there's more fog of war, make it so that some areas it's just harder to see what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Or another option would be more elite fixes, instead of limiting it at 4, why not take it up to 5, 6, 7 as you climb higher into greater rifts?
Yeah.
Obviously, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, keep going.
I was just gonna say, obviously, like there has to be a limit in terms of health because at some point we're limited in our damage until they add bigger and better DPS type weapons or gear or anything like that, different
Mm-hmm.
fixes. Um, but I think if you end up limiting the health of the mobs, but finding new and interesting ways to make the fights themselves more difficult, you might actually just end up with more rewarding gameplay because it feels like, yeah, you can kill them, you have the damage required. It's just can you make the right moves at the right time to get the job done? And to me, that feels better than just kind of standing there and saying, okay, Q, 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 hit my E, W, W, W,
Mm-hmm.
hit the Q.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked about. I want to say, at least half a dozen times on the show that it comes down to just how the game is designed. They want to keep that RNG aspect of it, and from a certain point of view, it would just take too many resources to like handcraft all of the greater rift levels
Mm,
past a certain point. But there's not a lot that you can do while keeping everything random. You can't maybe you could edit the enemy AI a little bit to make it smarter or have new abilities or react differently. But, if you want to do something a bit more engaging and have certain types of enemies, interact with each other in a certain way, you kind of have to craft, how the level itself is going to be or how the enemies spawn or, things of that nature. Like maybe you'll be going through, a greater rift that has um, the cathedral tile set, and you'll get to one of those corners where the unburied would come out of the little alcoves. What if you're going through a greater rift and all of a sudden the doors close, and
mm.
then unburied just start coming out of those alcoves in like greater and greater waves, and you have kind of a like a mini chest event that you have to defeat before you can move on to the next level, and it gives you a kind of a reward in addition to killing all the enemies, a couple of orbs to help you progress for the time that you're stuck waiting on those waves.
That could be really cool. And
Mm-hmm.
especially, it might even promote like better party dynamics and stuff too. Because what if it locks out players that aren't close by? Those walls go up and it's like, whoa, you weren't next to me when I engaged this area. So now it's just like me in there
Mm-hmm.
or something. I mean, obviously, that could get insane with like hardcore and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You like set traps or I don't
Yeah,
even know.
at that point, you're kind of like every time you get that tile set and you come to that corner, it's like, hold on, wait.
Regroup, guys.
Okay, everyone, come on, group up. Okay, okay.
Right?
Enter the room at the same time. It's okay. Pull.
Exactly. But it's cool because
Uh,
it really, I think it's one of those things that you might label like a disruptive moment. And that's not from a negative standpoint, but it's just, it
mhm,
takes you out of the lull of, okay, go through, kill, 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 find the next elite pack. Oh, it's a blue pack, perfect, kill it down, get the
mhm,
orbs, keep moving. Because it just adds a bit of that unexpected. And that is
mhm,
still RNG because you don't know if you're going to get that rift. You don't know if you're going to get that scenario in that rift. Um, but it adds an element that I feel like is still unpredictable, but not to the point where you're ever going to. I mean, maybe you might get tired of it once you've seen it enough, but it's just
mhm.
something else. I think when you have like a healthy stew, like when there's a lot of like meat, potatoes, carrots,
Yeah.
vegetables, you want a little bit of everything going on in there. So.
Exactly. I mean, it kind of also fits like in the tradition of Diablo because it is pretty much at that point it's just a tile set. It's just
Hmm.
if you roll this particular tile, it has an event tied to it. And you could spread it up across different things. It doesn't even have to be included. It just is a random thing that gets thrown in there. Maybe you're going through like the ice caves and it has a nice big open area, and as you run through, there's an avalanche that drops and blocks off the entrances to the cave, and then you have all of these things just monsters dropping from the ceiling that you have to fight and kill, or just little things like that. I think the there's some interesting dynamics that they're adding in with the ruins of Shesharon, with the player activated traps
Mm-hmm.
that you can go through and do. Even just something simple like that, where it's like you might like reverse it. Instead of you have control of the traps, you enter in an area, or like one of those corridor maps like sewers. And there's one of Jake's ideas is just having trap doors and the guillotines and such that are going to shred you at every corner. Something along those lines, that you're going through and there's all these traps and guillotines and other just like area effect damage that you have to play around or dodge or do something. And at the end of that map, you're rewarded with, a couple time orbs. Obviously, it would have to be a small zone, so that way the chance of you completing the rift halfway through, would be low,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't just get kind of screwed over with RNG and have to go and fight Rhyme on a map full of traps. That would be
It's a circle of hell.
yeah, that would definitely be. I think that's the 10th level of hell. It's like not even Lucifer got put there.
Right? That's the
Um,
lowest of the low.
yeah, so it just there's a lot of different things that they could go through and do, with the way that the system is designed. Because as it stands right now, just slowly increasing the health and damage, just leads to that problem. Well, I get to a point, it's impossible for me to progress. I have to wait until the next content patch before I can go any further.
Exactly. Exactly. I wanted to just quickly put in the last part of his post here. I'm going to combine the last two sections, which is exploits and bots. And it's basically just talking about fair play and the fact that these things exist and we don't really see repercussions for them. He does go into some details on, well, not like how to do it or anything like that, but just the fact that there are some people that he has personally caught botting and has reported and has seen no action taken on their accounts, to the point where he's like, if they're in his clan, he has had to confront them and they either reform their ways or they continue to bot because they're just not being caught and they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst is, okay, you get kicked from the clan, but yeah, that doesn't really stop them from continuing to gain from whatever they're doing with these bots, and then assaulting the leaderboards if they want to on all their
Mm-hmm.
illegitimately found items and things like that, or illegitimately gained paragon levels, which kind of goes back to the exploits things.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just kind of dilutes the pool of competitiveness when you are trying, which is kind of getting back to the main gist of JH's point. When you're trying to be a hardcore character or player and you're trying to really dig into this game, you want the edge. You're trying everything possible within the rules of the game to be the very best in order to climb to the very top. But then when all of that just gets absolutely like rent asunder because someone else decided, oh, I found this really cool exploit that lets me completely shortcut the amount of time you just put into the
Mm-hmm.
game.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good when it happens, and you want to see those accounts actioned, or you want to at least know out in the open that, yeah, this is something that we don't stand for. We're the developers. We're here to shut it down, and this is what we're going to do to kind of prevent that stuff going forward. But when we don't hear anything, I think it doesn't help to make the players that really want to invest the time feel good about investing that time.
Mm-hmm. You kind of feel like, why am I putting so much time and effort into it if that guy over there could cheat and not get reprimanded?
I think that's really what brought Jake to write this post at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of fed up with it all.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to quickly talk about the post too. If you are listening and you want to follow along or re-review this, because we didn't even go into full depth on everything that he said. It's entitled "Long, Long, Long Ramble," and it's on the official forums under the general discussion area. But
Yeah, and you will normally still find it, even though it's a day old, it's still been pretty much on the front page the entire time. Seeing a lot of discussion going on in there.
yeah, some really constructive stuff too.
Hmm. And this actually does the topic about bots and exploit does remind me of a story from Diablo 2.
Hit me.
Obviously, everyone who's ever played Diablo 2 understands what botting was in that game. And I remember it was a little bit before Diablo 3 came out, and somebody found an exploit for bots. And what it was is just one of the more popular botting programs out there had a problem and would crash if you whispered it with a bunch of periods.
Huh.
And that became a new hobby of mine, in addition to a lot of other people that would find people on the hardcore leaderboards and then just message them a whole bunch of dots repeatedly, and then just check back periodically. And occasionally you would just see, oh, look, that person's now dead.
Guess we took down another bot.
Yep. Yep, it was just one of those, just going through, whispering them a whole bunch. You add them to their friends list and just says this person's on BattleNet, because if they don't add you back, you don't see what game that they're in, and then you just whisper them a whole bunch of periods. And then you check your friends list; they've gone offline. Look at that.
How interesting.
Yep. Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. So you could kind of like take vigilante justice into your own hands.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess one of the other surprising things is just how few people in the top leaderboards at the time ever whispered back like, "What?"
Right.
It just,
Do you think they
yeah.
knew what was going on?
I don't know. I imagine if they're if they were there, they had to have known.
Mm-hmm.
Or so, and it wasn't all bots. It was just people that were using this one particular botting program. I don't even know what it was. I just remember someone on the forums going through and talking about it, and I went and tried it, and sure enough, logged into like what was it, one of the you know bail run please 57 type games. Logging into the game, the person going through Worldstone Keep, teleporting through on the Paladin, just going and typing a whole bunch of dots in party chat, and then the person disconnecting.
Hmm.
It was funny.
That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. As soon as it became public knowledge, it got patched up within a few weeks, but it was fun while it lasted.
I like it, man. More vigilante justice. If only we could do the same in D3.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, kind of to sum things up here, I tweeted out this post when I saw Droth and Jh talking about it on Twitter, just because it felt similar to some of the things I had been feeling along the way with season one, especially when some of the bigger exploits came out. It's just like, man, like, what is this all for? What does it all mean? What is life? And just wanting the game to be at its most pristine, wanting the playing field to be as level as possible. And I feel like that's got to be part and parcel of the goals that the developers are throwing out there too. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for them to continue to work as hard as they have, and instituting things like leaderboards and season resets and things like that. Because if you're going to put them in but then leave them broken, then you might as well have not spent the time at all.
Yeah. Now, I think some of it kind of spawns just from the fact that there is no real competitiveness in Diablo. There's no tie-in to go through and say, like, you crown this person champion of D3.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best player, and because the lack of that, the scrutiny and that willingness to like make it as fair of a playing field as they can is lessened by that fact, because they don't have to keep it at that razor's edge. If you look at other things with like say StarCraft 2, for example, people that they're exploiting and botting, even though a lot of it still happens even in the Grandmasters League and doesn't always get shut down quickly, it's still something that they keep a much closer eye on. And
Yes.
it's even been people that have gotten as far as the WCS qualifiers, and playing in the qualifier themselves were using map hacks and things like that. They have to go back and check it and find that they're cheating and then ban them from WCS. And it's just, people will do it if they think that they can get away with it. And even in a situation where they could be permanently banned from ever competing professionally again, they're willing to take that risk. And so what's going to stop somebody in Diablo 3 when they're not even looking at it that closely?
Right. Yeah.
It'd just be one of those things that if there was something that they could do with the game, like those, handcrafted greater rifts, or like the two tower idea that Wyatt had come up with, there's just something to add some competitive aspect to the game,
Truly competitive.
to allow people to directly compete with one another in a stable environment. It might bring that greater interest to the game, and then also force the developers to also then view those people with just a higher level of scrutiny to shut down the exploiters.
Sounds good to me, man. Hey, the future is still bright and long, hopefully. So, who knows
Mm-hmm.
what we'll be talking about by the end of 2015 here.
Yeah. Who knows? Diablo X2.
There it is. Your prediction from 9 Ball to the world, because you have yet to predict things wrong, really.
I've been wrong here and there. I've been wrong here and there.
No, 9 Ball's never wrong.
Never wrong. Always wrong.
Were there any other news items you wanted to hit before we switched on over to our feedback section?
Um, Did I guess the one other thing is maybe with season one over, season two coming up, just talk about some of the changes that we still have yet to cover in the last couple episodes, like what to look forward to in season two, particularly conquests.
Sure, yes. So we did know what all the conquests are going to be based on the PTR and reviewing the conquests over there when they rolled the season to test it all out. So yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool if we went and let the people know A, what those conquests are going to be, what they have to look forward to, and maybe B, a little bit of first glance at some strats on how to take it down. So let me hop into this first one here. This one is one that we're all already familiar with. It's called Lionhearted, and all these are the hardcore named versions, but they have similarities on the other side. This one is similar to last season's Better Than Lucky / It's a Marathon, which basically is reach Greater Rift to level 35 in hardcore, softcore mode, whatever mode you're playing. So this one only got updated because the Greater Rifts themselves got a little bit reworked for patch 2.1.2. So normally it was get to Greater Rift 30, and now it's 35. A little bit higher, I guess, because I would say probably the equivalent of 30 would be like a 33 at this point. So yeah, this one I feel like the strat is really just going to be gear up. Maybe you'll need unities. It depends on how truly powerful the defensive gems are going to be if you're trying to get this one super early. But once you have kind of your spec mostly filled out and maybe some crappier versions of what you're hoping to end with, you should be able to take this down.
Mm-hmm. This one, kind of ties back into that power creep. Last season it was 30. This time it's 35. So that bar is gonna keep getting raised.
Slowly but surely.
Following up with the next one, we have Averita, which is you have to complete a 50 million gold streak while outside the vault or the inner sanctum, which is one of the random things that you can get from the unknown device in Act 2.
It's actually the area that you fight Greed in.
Oh, that's the inner sanctum?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I did not know I didn't realize that was a different area.
Indeed. So pretty much you can't get it inside of the Goblin Portal, is what they're saying here.
Because that one is just too easy.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was, there was someone that I saw on the Twitter feed a couple weeks ago that was trying for it, and they got up to 23 million, but I forget who it was.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see.
Yeah. And they were in, I think it was just, where were they? They were in the Weeping Hollow in Act 1.
That seems like a decent area for it. I feel like there are probably better ones, though. Like Fields of Misery, I feel like is a little bit bigger. And might be more dense. I feel like pretty much a lot of the Act 1 areas might be the way to go, because like Halls of Agony has quite a bit of density I've been noticing.
Yeah, or the Battlefield of Eternity would probably be another good one.
Oh yeah, just from the sheer size of it.
Mm-hmm.
Something that people have been saying too is it worth it to be killing enemies and picking up the gold as you go, and then trying to also you're basically trying to get a gold streak but also a massacre streak, or would you want to kill everything, leave gold in like strategic places, and then try and sweep it all up all at once?
Yeah, that one would be interesting. It'd be, that's doing that strat would be very hard as playing a demon hunter, because of having the ferrets out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like you'd have to take companion off of your bar.
I wonder, but I feel like at the same time the ferrets might help because they might reach pieces that you might not get to in time before the streak ends.
If you're going through and doing it where you're picking up the gold as you're running around and killing things, yeah. It definitely is in that respect, because they also give you plus 10% gold find.
Oh, true. That's true.
Yeah, so
And
it
this
gives you just that little extra edge. You know,
and what's interesting
but
too is I feel like you'll probably need a gold find set for this.
oh yeah, undoubtedly, and it's one of those ones you'll have to balance how much gold find that you stack on versus what difficulty that you still can complete it at.
Right, because you still get the gold find bonuses for going up in difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is going to be a really cool one, just in terms of all balancing of all the different modifiers that you can get, either from game difficulty to gear to skills. It's going to definitely make you approach the game in a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. And obviously, Boona the Hoarder. I forget. I don't even know if we mentioned that yet, but that'll be
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
integral.
Yeah, I think that one's a given.
Right on. The next one here is your favorite, the Deadly Language Conquest, which is complete the following hardcore lore book achievements. And if you go, once the
Mm-hmm.
season is live, you can actually go into your achievements page and you'll be able to find this conquest. So on the actual conquest, it doesn't show you which loot book, lore book achievements you need. But when you
Mm-hmm.
go into the achievements, it shows you all the ones that you need. So you can see what your progress is and which ones you're should be targeting and whatnot.
Yep, and it pretty much comes down to every single lore book in the game. You know, a lot of these you will have to play through the story in order to get. You should be fine if you get it. Like there's certain ones, like a lot of the Leah's journal entries, as well as the history of Westmarch books in Act 5, that you have to come back and talk to the NPCs or check the book, at very specific points while you're completing the quests in order to get them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of them you can knock out just your first playthrough on story mode.
This is very true. Next one here.
But yep, the next one, going and continuing on, we have Need for Speed. And this one is complete a Nephilim Rift at max level on Torment 6 within 2 minutes with during the hardcore season. That one sounds like a lot of fun and is
Mm-hmm.
definitely going to be easier for some classes than others.
Definitely. I think we were talking the monks would have a good time with this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is one of those ones. If you want to go for that one, consider leveling a monk, because you can get like 60-second clears on Torment 6 with the new Sun Wukong builds.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting too because if you can almost debate or not debate, divide the conquest into if you want to get them as a solo player or as a party player. Because if you have a party for this, it might actually go a little bit faster, assuming everyone in the party is super geared and
Mm-hmm.
well geared over the content. But I imagine when we were talking about it, I was noting that you probably want to have some dots going, so get your pain enhancers, get your gem of efficacious toxin. So you want to just be
Mm-hmm.
leaving a lot of things in your dust and having them die off screen. Probably not even caring about loot at that point either. Just trying to burn stuff down and maybe get lucky on some conduit pylons.
Yep. You can always come back and pick up the legendaries after you're done.
There you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
The items will still be there. And lastly, the fifth conquest, which I think is actually going to be the most fun and probably the most akin to the sprinter slash speed racer from season one, which was the complete
Mm-hmm.
the game in under 1 hour. This one's Worlds Apart, and it's kill the following bosses at max level on Torment 6 within 20 minutes of the start of the game in hardcore slash softcore mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically every boss going through the list. Again, this is another one you can check when you get into season 2. You open up your achievements page, you can see all the different bosses included on the list. But it's
Yep.
from your main bosses
Yeah.
of Asmodan, Diablo, all the way down to Magda, Skatu.
Yeah, it is literally every boss. So if you're wondering, does it include Escatu?
Yes.
Yes, every boss. Does it include Gom?
Yes.
Yes, every boss. You want to know which bosses it include? Is every boss. Ask the question of which boss it is. The answer is yes, because it is every boss.
This is true. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's going to, again, it'll be the conquest that requires kind of that Skype, that party coordination, possibly some split boss fighting. So you're going to definitely want to be well geared. And
Yeah, I wonder how it will work. Um, because I guess you could have like the party split up, where for some of them, particularly like the Spider Queen, having to go through the caverns there
Hmm.
is one of those things that will probably take up more time than killing her herself. Is just have players, like kind of like split, fan out, and hit up different bosses to find, port back to town, and then use the banners to teleport to one of the person, and
Ooh,
just kind of like go from there.
that's true. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you're gonna definitely want to like TP point some of the things, and oh my
yeah, but
goodness, yeah.
it's like if you teleport back from the boss, then you'll lose your teleport point from where you were before the boss. But then you still have the area mapped out. So I don't know whether it be worthwhile doing the split farming technique or just everyone running together.
Right. So we're definitely gonna
Uh-huh.
we're gonna get to the point where there will definitely be
Up,
some min maxing.
up, and yeah, there we go. Brandy just said Escatu was in fact removed because he doesn't appear in adventure mode.
Ah,
So
so that kind of clears 2 points, two birds, one
yeah,
stone there
there you go.
of what we were talking about. So Escatu was not put into adventure mode, and therefore is not
So
part of this conquest.
yep, and there you go. I was wrong. It is no longer literally every boss.
See, and I was giving you so many laudits and credits and all that good
Hmm.
stuff before, and you had to go and be
That
wrong.
that is what happens when you give me credit for anything.
Turn out to be wrong.
Hmm.
So yeah, these are the conquests to look forward to coming in season 2, which is now what's today, the fourth. I just looked at my watch; that's not on my wrist. Today's the fourth, so about 9 days away from the beginning of season 2. So if you're planning to hit any of these, trying to get on that board of the first 1,000, I would definitely start to put together some theory crafting, some strats, get friends who are gonna also want to be hitting these up with you, because that was kind of our strategy going into season 1, was just knowing that both of us were aiming to get as high as possible on a lot of these boards, and it was helpful
Hmm.
to have both of us going after them.
Yeah, definitely. Is kind of goes back to something we were talking about in the last episode, is having that season or that the community there to kind of bring you up and help you continue on. It's a motivator.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah, especially if you ever get stuck or you feel like you hit your head on something. If someone
Hmm.
else in the clan gets it, I feel like for me, I'll take a ton of pride in the clan and seeing like everyone's name on that board. So if I figure it out, I'm definitely telling you how to do it.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, and I guess one last thing before we go on to feedback is just a reminder. Uh, Between this episode, next episode, there is going to be the developer tavern talk next Tuesday, which is the 10th.
Yes.
So that's just something to go through and keep an eye out for, because we'll kind of get a season one postmortem, and I guess we kind of know what we're expecting in season two. So hopefully, their talk about future seasons will kind of go beyond season two and maybe start talking about season three, patch 2.2, and if they have any big system changes that they plan on bringing to the game.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited to take a look in there. We always get some interesting tidbits from the great minds of the devs. So, and of course, trolling the Twitch chat is a lot of fun as well.
Oh, of course.
All right. Well, with that said, I think we'll wrap up the news section and we'll head on over to the feedback section. It's a very short walk from here. And
Yes.
on the way, I will tell you that you can contribute to this next section by sending an email to westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. We read any and everything that you throw into our box, whether it be complaints, suggestions, hints, tips, tricks, .biz.net. If you want to send tweets, you can do that at the WM Workshop. Those are of the 140 character variety, unless you like flooding the Twitterverse with multiple tweets in a row, which I love to do personally, so go ahead and do that. Otherwise, yeah, we'll just head on in.
Yeah, let's get it done.
All right, I'll take a first one here actually, because this is one that was kind of left over from last week, and I realized I
Hmm.
wanted to talk about it, but then I was bad and didn't talk about it.
All right.
So this one comes from Jesper Trampadak. Probably murdering that last name, but here we go. He says, "What's up, fellas?" It's a little different from sup, fellas, but I'll take it. I have played different classes in Season 1, and he's a bit annoyed about one specific thing. Set item bonuses are very important, but they seem way too important now. You've discovered that before you find 4 to 5 pieces of the set item and the Ring of Royal Grandeur, you're not really doing much. The gear curve seems only slightly to be going up until you get that bonus, and then boom, T6 and beyond is yours. He said I could be a bad player, and that could be the reason behind it, but I think not. It wants less emphasis on set pieces and the gear out there, and it would be awesome to have a viable gear set only consisting of normal, non-set legendaries and still be able to compete in the top tiers. And I read this because we literally just talked about it maybe 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes ago in JH's section. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want you, Jesper, to think that we had forgotten about your feedback here. Again, yeah, we were kind of in agreement that there definitely is a heavy, and not even dedicated, but a decidedly heavy emphasis on set items because the devs really have pointed to those being the end game items. So it makes sense that they are going to be what takes you towards that end game, which is the greater rifts and leveling up the legendary gems and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely in complete agreement that it'd be great to kind of skin the cat in a different way by using just a whole bunch of menagerie of random legs that all do cool things individually and come together to also help you progress.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I'd like to see. That's something that but just in D3 Classic, the sets were all garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You equipped items just that had stats,
Echoing
and there
Fury.
were you had things that just they didn't really have any interesting mechanics or anything like that. You just equipped them, and then that was it.
Indeed.
hmm Well, let's see. Moving on, we got an email here from Tinok, who's going through, and he's catching up on our podcast after taking a long break from D3. And just now that the season 1 is at an end, it's kind of refreshing his love. He's kind of getting a breath of fresh air after stepping outside for a little bit. And he just listened to Archon's last show, and so we're getting some feedback from a couple weeks ago. But one of the things that he wanted to weigh in was like the elemental damage, and that he felt maybe something that they could do to balance it is instead of having just like plus fire or plus cold, just a single element damage bonuses, is have something that is just plus all elemental damage, and give it just like slightly smaller one, so kind of a reverse of what resists are. You have all resists and then you have the singular resists,
Mm-hmm.
so you could have like fire damage or all elemental damage. And it's just a lower um, damage value, so that way if the single elements cap out at 20, the one that does all elements could cap out at 15. And so you could equip that and be able to use multiple elements at the same time without like kind of losing too much in the damage. So you could use frost arrow alongside cluster arrow. It's just loaded for bear, so you use cold and fire at the same time. Well, that would be one way of doing it. I think that at that point you're just slapping on this piece of gear increases your damage by 15%. It isn't that intriguing. It doesn't really have a lot going for it. I think that there's other things that they could do to kind of fill that gap and kind of fulfill on that process. Maybe adding in something like from World of Warcraft, multi-strike. So it's every time that you attack, you have a certain percent chance of triggering a second attack of the same skill that does a lower amount of damage to the same target. Just like little things like that you could still go in and tweak, so that way the numbers make it that it increases damage by 20%, but just does it in a way other than just flatly increasing damage by 20%.
Right, something a little more enticing or intriguing. I think
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I do like about the idea, at least, is that it just adds more things to the affix pool, and I feel like maybe it's not worth it to flood it with useless affixes just for the sake of having a bunch because it'll make it harder to roll like better or to roll perfect items. But I do also like the idea of just having more viable options for affixes, akin to what you've been saying basically. And just, I can't wait till we get to a point where there are, 13 or 14 different affixes that could all be really good. And it's not even about seeking a perfect item. It's just about like now, like what can I do with this thing that rolled this crazy combination of affixes? I know some people wouldn't be quite as excited for that, but I don't know. We can dream.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to take the next one here from Inno, who comes back and says thank you for reading his treatise on trading last time around.
Mm-hmm.
You did the brunt of the work on that 9 ball, so thank you for that from him. And he wanted to note this awesome Azurath that he found, and I do believe I have it pulled up here. Should be on the
Mm-hmm.
screen at any moment for you, 9ball. The people can see. It's a 3,107.7 DPS Azarath, which is again a one-hander, so that's insane damage. It's got cold skills damage increased by 20%. It's enchanted with a 10% damage affix. It's got some intelligence, I believe 841 if I'm reading that properly.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that chance to freeze, that hefty chance to freeze, I think it's like 24% on this one if I'm reading that. And a Rama Lama ding a darnger on the item there to add that socket in.
Trying to find more ways of making it more
I'm
ridiculous.
running out of ideas.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell.
Please send your feedback for different variations on Ramalani's gift.
Uh-huh.
He just wanted to throw that up just to brag because it's awesome, and I agree. So I wanted to highlight it. But then he also said that there's something about barriers in Diablo, and we kind of artificially set them in terms of DPS. And he was saying back in the original D3 days, if you get your character above 600,000 with the proper, elite elemental skill bonuses, etc., that was considered top tier. And then after ROS came out, he remembers it being around 1 million DPS that you had to hit before you were considered top tier. And now after Ancient Items came out, he's looking at 2 million as that new premium standard, which is excellent. But what about 3 million sustained standing DPS on your character sheet, which is possible
Mm-hmm.
with good stats in elite elemental and skill, and you must have godly ancient gear or some sort of crazy perma acrats, etc. And he says if you really want to hit a milestone, then with the right ancient gear, the right skills, the right passives, it's possible to get over 4 million sheet DPS as a wizard
Mm-hmm.
for 10 minutes at a time between shrines using the Gloves of Worship. And so on screen, you can see that he has 4.27 million deeps, which is pretty crazy. A scene number, he says, for any class to have, and it might be possible to go higher and break 5 million with all the right stuff, but no external class buffs. So just for a solo character, utilizing shrines and all that good stuff. And you can kind of see if you look down, he's got like a magic weapon, was it force weapon, Bane of the Powerful, active.
Yeah,
Um,
your standard, kind of force multipliers.
exactly, he's got a frenzy shrine, etc. So yeah, it's pretty cool when people just kind of randomly come up with these challenges. Like obviously it's not permanent, so your damage isn't always that increased. You could even, I mean, for it depends on what you put the limit at too, because if you have like a what am I thinking of? The Harrington Waist Guard, for that 10 seconds that you activate that, you can have up to like 8 mil, 9 mil, 10 million DPS.
Mm-hmm.
So is it just about hitting that flash in the pan moment, or is it about sustaining it for a certain amount of time? Definitely cool challenges that people give themselves out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it from that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me go through and grab another one here. This one goes through and comes in from Scott Kostatuk. This one basically translates as "What's up" in Klingon. So he wanted to go through and give some nerd love in there. And his discussion was he wanted to talk about potions. And he has like the mutilation potion, but he never got any others. So it's like he got that, and that is one of those things that these legendary potions are really rare. I think I've maybe come across 5 in total, and I have 2 of the armor ones.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like, and again, this is kind of the same question that I posed from last week with Ramalani's gift and whether that was bumped up in terms of the rarest items becoming less rare. But I feel like from season 1 in general, potions seem to have gotten a little bit of a favorable bump in terms of dropping more often. I was definitely I mean, they're definitely on the rarer side, I'll give you that. Like, they weren't dropping like hotcakes, but I was definitely finding quite a bit. And I actually want to say I saw the most of them fall in Greater Rifts, like at the end of killing Grid Rift Guardians. There were potions at the end there for whatever reason.
Yeah, I have found one potion actually on Monday, just going through and cleaning up Act 4 bounties on Torment 1. I did find another potion, but I've not had very good luck going through and getting any of them. And he's going through and saying the same, that he's found he got 4 or 5 Ramallah ding dongs, whatever things, Rama Lama Bama. grandma Bama marmalade.
Marmalade.
And that he's even found 3 of the Templar Never Die tokens, but he's only found that single potion the entire time. And it's like, do I have to not have one in my inventory? What can I do to help out in my RNG on it? It's like, what do you guys do until you find one? And it's just, unfortunately, that one is just one of those things. It's RNG is RNG,
right?
You have people that will go through and they're swimming, in gifts, and another person's never found one. I remember just at the beginning of the season, I think I found 3 gifts before you found your first one.
Yeah, dude, I was super starved.
Yeah, and just those ones, it just comes down to it. It's not a lot that you can do. And then he also had just some other questions, like he wanted to know if this last patch did the graphics improve slightly. I think I remember seeing some things where they just improved gameplay in certain areas where the performance was lagging. But other than that, I've not really heard anything about graphics and like any real big graphics improvements for the game.
My only contribution to that is I've been reading the clan chat, and some people have been saying some areas look darker, and now today, or maybe it was yesterday, some people were saying some areas now look lighter, and I don't know. It could all just be in our heads, but maybe.
Yeah, they're not by chance just checking the weather effects of being in adventure mode, are they?
I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, never know. And then just one of the other last things that he just wanted to go through and say that he's been with us since episode 1, but Archon's secret mission to colonize Mars with penguins for national security is worth it. So
that space program.
Yep, that space program.
That's too funny.
Who knew that teaching penguins how to play Pokemon on the moons of Mars would be tied to national security? But there you go.
It's of the utmost importance right now. He's also the reason why it's snowing so much. I don't know if you guys knew that. So blame Archon. Hashtag it. Get it trending.
Archon's fault.
Yep. All right. I have another one here that's coming from Daniel Dahlstrom. He says, "Sup, fellas. I was thinking on this for a while after watching the podcast, which was Archon's last episode. See, I got a little Archon trail. See what I did there? A possible answer came to me while playing the game. I believe it was Wyatt Chang or John Yang that said that they didn't want to play the game and hold on to the blood shards without knowing what they were used for. So that was actually John Yang who was saying that he didn't want new players to be playing and continuing to collect blood shards ad nauseum until they didn't realize that they could do something with them, which is why they put the limit in. And Daniel comes back and says, well, why can't Kadala sell an item that sells a blood shard pouch that extends the 500 shard limit, or have items that can be crafted from blood shards, or maybe just have an item, I don't know, something about crafting items. Interesting. I had not thought of upgrade that you might purchase and then increase your limit. That'd be cool. I mean, I kind of like the idea of tying it to a gold sink. I don't know, like as you continue to buy more of these upgrades, maybe they go up to like astronomical prices, but you can get up to 1,500, 2,000 shard cap. And it would be a way to do it without just saying, okay, we're finally giving in, we're doing it. Instead, add it as a feature in the game where it's like, ooh, we're giving you something to do with your currency and with your materials.
Kind of like another way of increasing stash space.
Indeed. So I mean, I don't know. It would be cool. Again, it's kind of just the throw out a pipe dream and see where it lands. If it ever lands, what happens to a dream deferred?
Yeah.
But I wanted to highlight that because I'm still fighting the ongoing crusade of blood shards and their limit. And why should we put limits on blood shards, people? They have feelings too.
They do have feelings. If a corporation can be a person, I think blood shards could be a person.
Let my blood shards go. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Moving on. There's one from the ever active Ty Bud. Sup, fellas?
The originator.
Yeah. Continuing on the legacy. And he has a question about the monk passive harmony. And how does this work to your benefit? And does using the skill mean that it's best to gear using sub resist on your gear over all res? And this one is one of those ones. It depends on the slot that you're going through, like the gear slot that you're going through and using it for. But I think in almost every instance, it is just going to be flat out better to have the secondary resist, because you can put in some other thing into that slot that you're giving up the all resist for. As long as you go and make sure that you're diversifying with all of your secondary resists that you're putting on your gear, it can work out and balance itself. It's more so, you're not really giving up all resist for just the 40% of the secondary resist. It's you're giving up the all resist and gaining something else in its place. Or you're just going through and adding it in. Something like your shoulder slot. That's a popular one that you keep all resist on, just because there's not too much in there that you can mess around with. But with the shoulder slot, you can now take main stat, vitality, life percentage, and a skill damage bonus or cooldown reduction if you need it, instead of taking all resist, and you can just still get that secondary resist and a little bit of all resist from it. So it's just kind of freeing up slots that you can go and get, whereas something like the belt, there's not really anything in that particular slot unless you're using something like a witching hour that you're giving up to you'd be giving up all resist to gain nothing.
Makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
JustMonkThings.com.
Yep.
It's not an actual website. Don't go there. Let's see. All right. Was that it for that?
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Cool. So keeping with class-specific advice, I have 2 Crusader emails here. One from Mr. Dorcas, who was asking us about if we would actually go and do that Speed Racer conquest, and we fell down on our faces. We did not get it, unfortunately. We gave it many valiant attempts. I think we got very close at one point. Blaze found a furnace. I don't know. Who can really say what happened, honestly?
Yeah, who can say what happened?
But we gave it a shot, and we couldn't, unfortunately, get another one together before the end of the season. But then Mr. Dorcas came back and said thanks for the reply, and now he's curious about the Condemn build. What 3 legendary gems do I use in it, and what 6 skills? And he says that he's using the Bane, but it doesn't specify which Bane. I'm going to assume Bane of the Trapped. Smite and Gogok gems, and not sure if Gogok is helpful here or more for the Stampede build. And then we had... And actually, this is what you requested last time, Nineball, was questions that kind of tied together or answered each other. I guess these 2 just kind of asked the same question. But we have one here from 3 Days JPT, who first chimes in with an add-on that exists that will show your elemental damage when you're looking at the character's page on battle.net. I almost didn't want to read it just in case it was like an add-on for in-game stuff, but I guess it's outside of the game, so whatevs. It basically just shows you what your elemental damage will be. And you can actually find information like that on like Diablo Progress and stuff like that too, so there are sources out there to figure it out if you don't want to do the multiplication of the formula yourself. And then his second part here is that he's loved the Crusader since it first came out, concept skills, all of that good stuff. Just had a lot of issues getting the damage and progressing. Wants to try the Condemn build and has a couple of Blades of Prophecy, but not sure what else is needed or the skills. And essentially feels like he just gets nowhere when he's crusading. So for both of you guys, I'll answer in specific the gems. I think the best gems for the build are going to be the Bane of the Trapped, the Smite gem, which is the Marinai Teardrop of the Starweaver. And for that third one, I'm personally going with Taiguk. I still think that is going to be the best because you're constantly spamming out your condemns, spamming in quotes. So it's pretty much always up, especially if you have the right Wrath regen numbers that you need there. In terms of the actual details for it, like the gear, the skills, all that stuff, rather than rehash it here, because we did have it on a previous episode, and I wish I'd actually looked up exactly which episode it was. But if you go to my YouTube channel, SA Stewart 1, the main video that pops up when you visit the channel for the first time is actually an overview of the Condemn build. So you can check that out right there. It was for the PTR when I was testing out the Holy Hoover Crusader version of it. And that's still a very valid build. It's been actually getting very popular in terms of people viewing it, trying it out, using it. So I definitely recommend starting there. And then if you have more specific questions, definitely write back in and let me know. But it would be a lot. It was like an 18-minute video, and I definitely don't want to take 18 minutes of the podcast now to rehash it.
Why not?
People don't want to hear me blab about Crusader. So
Ain't
that's
nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for. Ain't nobody got a rhyme for that.
I see what you did there.
Yes, stolen lyrics. I admit.
Yeah. Now you're crushing my dreams of you being so creative.
I creatively co-opted those lyrics.
I'll take it.
All
I'll
right.
take it.
Good. So that's that for that.
Yep. All right. This next one comes in from Little Luck, Lieutenant Ill Luck, Little Luck.
Little Luck is how he told me it should be said, but that is definitely not how it looks.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Little Luck. This is coming in from Little Luck. Just wanted to go and say that been following our stream since episode 1, just because he was excited to see Archon going and streaming again, and has just been following us through our whole journey here, and has wanted to actually go through and send us some feedback from a couple months ago, but just never got around to it, and finally went through, took the time and sent us the email, and we greatly appreciate it. It's a little bit of a lengthy one, but to kind of condense it down, he had given up on Diablo 3 and just didn't like the game, and it was only after a friend had convinced them and forced them to play the game after Reaper of Souls had come back that they realized how far the game itself has come, and so they immediately got hooked. And when season patch the patch 2.1 came out and season 1 came out, it kind of damaged that image a little. Just they had so many of the exploits, things weren't working properly, and all these other little things that kind of tarnished it. And so they view as season 2 is going to be the real season 1, but because there's not any real big new features being added in, it doesn't have that kind of hype or that glitter or that that gloss that they feel that it should have. And so but despite all of that, and it's not being like really groundbreaking anymore, they still have a lot of fun with the game and definitely enjoy it. And so it sounds like patch 2.2 is going to be the one that's going to be for you, with a new season, new mechanics, a new zone, a whole bunch of new things being added in. Steven, are you there?
Oh, I was muted. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just sitting here in silence, wondering what's going on.
I totally thought I hit the button. Actually was asking you if you were done. And apparently you were. No, I was just talking to myself, saying that I remember when Little Luck would hop into my streams and he was asking questions and things like that, just about the seasons and whatnot. And I'm pretty much in agreement with his assessment of things. I think that as the seasons roll, as we get more versions of them and more iterations on them, it's only going to improve. We can hope. I don't foresee it going backwards. And obviously, some of the exploits that were there previously will not be there because they've been fixed. So, good things to come, right?
Yep, good things to come. And who knows, we might have another expansion down the line.
This is true. If we keep saying it, it has to come true.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's see. I have a furnace question here, and I was bad and I didn't actually screen capture or isolate out the image here. But it's basically a question from our good friend Brian from Dublin, who says, "All right, lads," which is also known as "Sup, fellas." He's been playing D3 for 6 months now, so he considers himself very much a noob. He's been using the Holy Hoover Crusader build, which is awesome. And he says it's awesome, and I agree that is awesome that you've been using it. Paragon 650 on softcore, found a furnace that was not ancient, but he wants to know how to re-roll it and what scenarios would it be best in order for different kinds of re-rolls. So first he wants us to tackle, how would you re-roll the furnace for a Crusader? Now when I pull it up, It's a 3,336 damage Crusader, and this is on console, by the way, on a PS4 it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 1,015 strength, 1,116 vitality, Ramalamated, yeah, he put a Ramaladni's gift in there for a socket, and it's got 26,176 life per hit. So obviously, I'm thinking the life per hit is going to be the thing that we re-roll here. And so his question is, what is better, the percent damage, the CDR for which class, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And he notes that right now on his Crusader, he only has 40% CDR, so he's definitely below the cap of about 56%. I would say putting CDR on here honestly is going to serve you best because you're going. And the thing too is that you're going to want to stick with the Blade of Prophecy if you're going to keep using the Holy Hoover Crusader build. But if you're going to switch over to the Stampede build, then you would I think you would even still want the CDR on the Furnace there because you'll then use the Gogok of Swiftness, and that will help you meet that last percentage points of whatever you're missing to get up to that CDR cap so you can have permanent Akrat's champion.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you're just going to replace this Furnace, hopefully anyways, with a better version with better innate rolls and also hopefully Ancient. But I think it makes way more sense as you're moving up in Greater Rifts to have kind of the toughness in line, especially if you're playing hardcore. I don't even know. Oh, he did say softcore. So just in general, though, like to have the survivability hit that certain level, you're going to want to have Akrat's champion permanently up. And not only does it give you that mitigation, but also the damage too. So in a way, you're gaining damage by increasing your CDR. And the CDR is just super important for Crusaders. So that would be my main focus early until you can kind of move pieces around and mitigate the CDR issues on different pieces. And his next question is, would you advise different rerolls for a Witch Doctor? Turn that over to you.
All right. Let me see. Which one was that again?
This is by Brian from Dublin.
All right. Here we go. Um. Well, I guess there he's asking about the reroll on the furnace itself.
Yes, or just in general
But,
for furnaces for Witch Doctors.
I mean, furnaces for Witch Doctor, obviously you want to get the intellect on there, but other than that, it's you're pretty much you're looking at intellect and vitality. And the same thing, cooldown reduction. If you're going for, I imagine if you're using a furnace, you're going for the Jade Doctor build, and you need to get the cooldown on Soul Harvest, pretty low, just so, because that's your main damage dealer. And so the quicker you can spam it, the more damage you're going to be doing.
Very true. So yeah, and then the last question on this email was if there was a common ground between both classes that can use it for both. Mm-hmm. And then of course the stat being what it is, it's a strength furnace originally, so you would have to reroll mm-hmm. the strength, which is kind of something you don't want to do, honestly. Mm-hmm. So you would rather have one for your strength class, one for your int class, and then get that CDR for both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, though, I mean, with it being a furnace, unless your intelligence is really low, it might still be better than most of your other options, even having it roll into strength.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Were there any other feedbacks that you wanted to take?
No. I mean, we got a couple ones, Tamur, Ty Bud, some others, they sent in some suggestions for openings, mm-hmm. that we will definitely take into consideration.
They are being noted, by the mm-hmm. way. I'll say nothing more, but the intros, the suggestions are being noted. So check back in a couple of episodes, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there was one other one from Diego. I don't know if you have that one queued up for images.
I did not. I did not pull this one.
They had a question about re-rolling a chest for their wizard, and they just noticed that it had decent intelligence, decent vitality on a ancient Firebird's chest, and they wanted to know, what they should do because it rolled very low armor. And it's a question: what possible enchant would they be doing in order to increase their toughness? If toughness is the only thing that you're looking to do, unfortunately, because it rolled with a secondary a fix for arcane resistance, you cannot get all resist in place of armor. And armor just isn't all that great. You might be better off re-rolling armor into a damage bonus, something like Blizzard or something along those lines.
Well, I think there has to be a consideration too if we're talking about survivability for the elite mm-hmm. damage reduction too.
This is also true. This is also true.
So I guess yeah, either you want to do more deeps and kill stuff before they kill you, or get that elite damage reduction and then hopefully withstand them as you kill them with your not quite as strong skills.
Mm-hmm.
But word, I guess that wraps up the feedback section. But wait, are items of the week considered feedback? I don't know. I kind of like it. I like calling it its own section.
Yeah, it kind of is, even though there's always some overlay there.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna hop into the items of the week here. Get those going on the screen for all the people to see. And you'll be seeing shortly on your screen an item that I thought we wouldn't see come back, actually. This is Tasker and Theo of the Ancient Variety, submitted
Mm-hmm.
by Mad Hamster, our perennial weekly submitter. Can you be perennial and weekly at the same time? Things to consider.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So kind. Here he's got 964 dexterity, 999 vit, 5% attack speed increase, and 9% critical hit chance with a 50% a perfect increase attack speed to your pets, and then the secondary of 203 physical resistance. Nothing re-rolled here.
No.
And like we were saying previously, right, the taskers have kind of fallen out of favor for DHs, but I mean, still pretty sexy here nonetheless.
Yeah, still definitely is. That still would, if you haven't found anything to use a Ring of Royal Grandeur with, that still wouldn't be too bad, because it will still increase just the passive damage of the sentries as well as your pets themselves. They can put out, a pretty decent amount of damage at the lower gear levels until you get your infinite hatred, kind of like rotating through there for cluster arrow. As far as the damage goes, obviously you want to reroll the vitality into crit damage. If you want to keep that survivability, so much the attack speed. If you want to keep vitality, attack speed would be the stat that I'd reroll at that point, since it is far weaker than crit damage.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. The next item up is another Maximus. We've been getting really good Maximuses for whatever reason, and I will continue to show them because they are beautiful. This one is an Ancient Maximus submitted by Paige, who's a new submitter. I don't believe I've seen the name come up, but it is a 4,344 DPS Maximus. Fire skills deal 19% more damage, enchanted for a 10% damage affix, and I wanted to highlight this one because it has elite dexterity, 1337, which is just awesome. Because, I mean, come on.
Come on.
Right? It's got to be like bonus, like when you get 777 in Casino or like Final Fantasy. I think like 7,777 is like really good in Final Fantasy 7 for some reason.
If your health hit that, then I believe it was like all of the damage that the character does for the rest of combat will always be 7,777.
There it is.
So if you had something like the multi-strike or the group strikes, it would hit everyone because it wouldn't get the damage reduced.
There it is. So yeah, I love those number type things. So we got some elite damage here, some elite decks for you. Thank you, Paige, for submitting that. Coming up next, one of Nine Ball's newly favorite items, we have an Ancient Incense Torch of the Grand Temple, and this one might even be better than last week's. I can't even remember what numbers we had, but this one is being propped up by attack speed, so we will put that caveat out there. This is 4,650.1 DPS and submitted by Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. I believe he submitted a couple items in the last few weeks. It's enchanted with a 10% damage affix, 1,320 dexterity, so, just 17 off of elite there. No big deal. Increased attack speed by 7%, increases wave of light damage by 27%, and then has the reduced spirit cost of wave of light by 45%, and on the secondary, some extra max spirit, 28. And of course, Rama Hama Nama for a socket.
Rama Lama Lama. Rama Bama Alabama.
Keep it going.
Yep. I think this one actually did have more damage on it. Like this one was a higher damage item, but the last one, obviously because it has the attack speed, the other one had like the 5 spirit per second.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's pretty tasty.
Yeah, but this one also does have max spirit, which you start off with that higher amount, and so when you go through and pop something like the Epiphany, and you're gaining the 45 spirit per second, you can't spend it fast enough, so it gives you that little bit of a higher starting break.
No little edge. That's true.
Hmm.
I like it. Some astute analysis on monk things. Here we have actually someone who's in the chat right now. This is Nevelistus's Blade of Prophecy of the
Oh
ancient
boy.
variety. I saw this on
Mhm.
Twitter because she was playing with Grimiku on, I believe it was a lunch break, and apparently she just stole all his luck and decided to loot some pretty sweet and rare items. There's also an Akrat's Awakening here, but we're just not even going to look at that because we're blinded by the beauty of this ancient Blade of Prophecy. It's
Mhm.
4,278.8 DPS with a 9% damage affix enchanted on there, so you can get 1% more there, make it even tastier. 1,267 strength, and reduce cooldown by 10%, which is like probably the best part of this thing here, because
It doesn't get much better than that now, does it?
well,
Uh, how does that make you feel? How does this item make you feel?
how does this item make me feel? It makes me
Yeah.
feel like bad. It makes me feel like feelings and bad
Mhm.
and sadness.
May I add something?
Yes.
Welcome to my world throughout season one. That's I'm just throwing it out there. Just
It's funny how the tables have turned, huh?
yep,
This is
yep.
my Tasker and Theo, man. Gosh darn it.
Hmm.
Karn Flabbit. But when you ask the question, does it get better? Could it get better? It does. Because I have on here another Ancient Blade of Prophecy submitted by Simon. Thank you, Simon, for submitting this. And when he sent it in,
Hmm.
I sent him an email back almost immediately that said, I hate you so much. Congrats. It's
Congrats.
it's 4,431.9 DPS. He actually has been rerolling the base damage on here because it rolled with a
Hmm.
10% damage innate roll, a 1,417 strength innate roll, a reduced cooldown of all skills by 10% innately, and he just put I just give up. He put a realm of Laudnes on there. I'm gonna go cry now.
Yeah.
Take over the show.
So just when Evelistus thought that she was riding high and pretty. Nope. Nope. We only included her item just so that way we could show something better.
Okay, I'm back. I swallowed my feelings. Oh my god, yeah. This is like this. I would be set. I'd be done. You need nothing after
Mhm.
this, man. So, Simon, wherever you are, I hope you're doing good things with this item. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to Crusaders everywhere.
Or, given how sexy that item is, you could be doing bad things with that item and it'd still be fine.
This is true.
Interpret that any way that you want.
And now that we're getting lewd and lewd, we're now at the end of the we're at the end of the podcast. We survived another episode. My sadness did not fully pull me into the pit. What is that? I was trying to make a what's that never ending story thing. I ran out of
Mm,
words.
yeah.
It's doesn't they go into that pit with the horse and Atreyu?
It's the swamp of, dang it, I don't remember now.
Someone's gonna type it in chat
Someone's gonna yell at us.
at
I
any
mean,
second.
this we're probably gonna get some feedback on Twitter about not knowing what it is.
All right. But yeah, as Nineball maybe possibly Googles the answer to that, I will
The
just
swamp of sadness. There you go.
oh there it is. It was so
Mhm.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I escaped the swamp of sadness, so I'm okay. I'll find my ancient blade of prophecy at some point. Hopefully it'll be in season 2 actually. I'll just maybe stop playing from now or something. That'll never happen.
Yep.
But was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there or you know, leave the people with?
No, I think that about covers it. I think we're good. Next week will be 1 week closer. We'll just be a few days away from season 2, and we'll have the tavern talk to talk about.
That's right. Yep. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Valentine's Day spent in Sanctuary, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Killing all the things and giving them big, big hugs.
Oh boy, my Valentine's Day is gonna be packed.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be staying up all night playing season 2. Then after maybe sleeping for a few hours, going and trying to get a game of Warhammer in, and then going and spending the afternoon with the missus.
Nice. Look at that. I like it. A very multifaceted approach there.
Yeah, and then passing out.
Or coming back for more season 2.
Yeah, or that, and then probably losing my character as I fall asleep.
I'll allow you at least 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, Q.
But then I'll be poking you saying, we need more levels.
Mhm.
More Paragon.
You're such a generous master.
Cruel Taskmaster.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, at this point, I'll just leave it. I'm still kind of at a loss for words with all the ancient Blades of Prophecies that keep coming in. Please stop submitting them. I've had enough.
Keep doing it.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. No more, please. I'm going to go ahead and start our outro music and let you know that you've been watching the Westmarch Workshop, episode 38, A Brave New Era. Hopefully you've been tackling these new refreshed leaderboards in the off-season, or maybe you're just taking a break. But whatever you do, continue to follow all the exciting news coverage on diablo.blizzpro.com. We'll be putting up all the latest and greatest newses, releases, tavern talk overviews, and whatnot in the coming days. You can continue to follow the show over on YouTube if you want to rewatch all this craziness. That's at SA Stewart 1 or BlizzPro. I throw it up on both YouTube pages. You can also get the audio-only version, iTunes and Stitcher. That follows very shortly after tonight, usually. And let's see, you can follow each of us individually. I'm SA Stewart 111, that guy, that lovely guy that you all know and love. That's Nineball Gamer. And the show itself has a Twitter, of course. It's the WM Workshop. If you want to come and watch us live, it's Wednesday, every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard, here on twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And until that day has come, have fun. There's no sun.
But we gotta run.
Ah, well done.